Hello, Exiles. This is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and welcome to my build update for my Raider using Storm Rain. Now, I have Storm Rain, and I use Storm Rain to level, but just recently I switched over to primarily using Lightning Arrow. The reasoning for this I'll kind of go over, but honestly, just to sum it up, TLDR, I am pretty disappointed with Storm Rain. I think it feels pretty weak. I used it as soon as it was available. It's not bad single target, but it's got a couple of different issues. Firstly, the area, and as well as the potential damage, scales very heavily with extra arrows. So in order to get the extra arrows, I have GMP, of course, but I also am using Death's Opus, which isn't the fastest attacking bow around. So I'm losing some attack speed in order to gain that extra, whatever it is, 40% arrows. I guess I'm not losing 40% attack speed though, so it still works out to being pretty good in that regard. But you want to get 100 arrows in the ground before the first arrows kind of expire. And they only pulse 4 times, and they pulse every 0.43 seconds. So that means you're looking at by the time you get a fully leveled gem, it's 0.41 seconds. So that would be like a 1.62 seconds you have in order to get somehow 100 arrows into the ground. So I'm shooting 7 right now. Without any of my frenzy charges, I have a 0.43 attack time. And granted, I'm going to get more frenzy charges, and I'm going to get Avatar of the Slaughter. That's going to make it more in line. But in order to get 100 times 7, I have to attack 14 times, or 13 and a half times roughly, in a span of 1.62 seconds. So that is going to be very difficult. I think that would have to make my attack time like 0.12. I didn't do the exact math, that's just kind of off the top of my head, but I think it'll be right around 0.12 attacks per second, unless I get more arrows. And even getting more arrows isn't going to help that much. Actually, just one more arrow would reduce the amount of times I'd have to attack, I believe, to like 12. In order to get the maximum amount of arrows, or like 12.1 or 12.2, which would increase. It would be still pretty fast, like faster than 0.15 attack time, which may be attainable, but it's going to be difficult to do. So that is one issue this skill suffers from. And honestly, I think maybe the fastest way to get them on the ground would be either with totems. I'm using Mirage Archer, which actually helps quite a bit. I wasn't using Mirage Archer before, but I think Mirage Archer is probably worth more than a damage support link in this particular case, because I think it's the only way you'll realistically be able to achieve getting all of the arrows you need into the ground, and as such be able to use this as like a viable single target skill. As far as clearing, I just don't think it's very viable, because as you can see, even when I put a bunch of these into the ground, they're all spread out and they're pulsing to different locations. So it's really hard to centralize the damage. You would need an explosion. I want to use Herald of Ice, of course, but then I'd have to scale area for that to feel good, which I'm not going to get a lot of area. I'm going to get, 15% from these nodes, and then 10% from this Hyri's Demise. As far as my gear, I had the gear ready already from my other character. I already had the Hyri's Ire 5 link, which I just found a Hyri's Ire through gambling with the new system Expedition, and I just harvest crafted it into a 5 link. I got a Hyri's Demise also from Expedition, from one of the bosses or one of the chests. I got the prophecy to upgrade this, so I just upgraded that. And then Fractal Thoughts, I found one of these. Death's Opus I did buy. It was like 50 chaos, 6 socket, and I tried to 6 link it, or at least 5 link it, and I failed to do both. 5 linking it would have been nice. I could have put another link in there. I probably would have thrown elemental damage with attacks, which would increase my single target pretty considerably. But I'm using Inspiration on both setups because I do have a bit of a mana issue. I'm using a lot of different methods to kind of fix the mana issue. First and foremost, I help Delira give some flat mana regen. I also have a little flat mana regen on this kind of bad jewel that I have that's just fire damage to attacks. I'm scaling all elemental damage, so all of my skills do every element. And I'm also using Trinity on my main setup, so that is going to help with that. Being able to balance the lightning and cold damage when I have such a high amount of cold damage is somewhat difficult, but it is doable, especially with added lightning damage from lightning arrow. I'll probably have to get some pretty good jewels in order to get that with lightning damage to attacks with bows and such. I don't want to use King of the Hill at all. I might get the small nodes leading up to it, but King of the Hill is quite bad with the Storm Rain, and the reasoning for this is it actually knocks things out. You want things to stay kind of centralized where all the arrows are pulsing, but it knocks them around and it lowers the DPS considerably. So despite having 80% crit chance and some damage, normally a pretty good node, feels terrible with this build. So I'm getting lethality. I'll pick up like the Heartseeker ones. Other than that, I'm not really sure. Maybe I'll get this cluster jewel instead and put like a lionized jewel here so I can get like the crit from around here. Another reason traps might be good, besides being able to put the most arrows in the ground the quickest, is then I would be able to get the bow crit besides King of the Hill, but I'd be able to get like the lethality and such, and also get like trap crit stuff like devastating devices and such, and blast cascade. And it would also be very easy to generate power charges. Currently, I generate power charges through Oscar, which also gives Assassin's Mark on hit, which brings up my crit chance pretty considerably. I have a baseline. I'm actually using increased critical strikes at the moment. I think it's actually pretty solid. Once I get a high enough crit, I'll probably replace it with crit multi instead. And in fact, it might be worthwhile to do that, but I just like the consistent damage. I'll just run through a desecrated chamber real quick. After playing the physical trapper, feels pretty bad because now instead of having it exsanguinate to get through the proximity shields that run in on some maps and things like this, yeah, and as you can see, my damage isn't that good. I have good gear, but boy, I have to attack multiple times. Single target for lightning arrow is just not there, so I have to throw down my arrow storm here, and yeah, it just takes quite a while to kill things. Once I get a nice juicy crit, it's fine. And once again, I think like the explosions from Herald of Ice would be nice, but I need to have enough lightning damage. What I'm thinking of doing is switching to Herald of Ice and then getting a high level Wrath instead of Hatred, even though Hatred's going to give a lot more DPS than Wrath, just so it's easier to keep Trinity up and I get the explosions from Herald of Ice, which would help with the clear. But once again, Herald of Ice doesn't feel super great to help clear if you don't have a lot of area scaling, and I just won't have that going. So all in all, I would say this build is kind of disappointing. Luckily, I didn't really invest much into it. Like I said, it was a fairly easy build for me to get into just because I already had the gear. So I basically invested the 50 chaos in the bow, and that is it. So everything else was self-found. So very helpful in that regard. But yeah, just I don't know. I felt like it would be more powerful. I might have to return to this later on. I might farm more currency on my trapper because I'm doing tier 16 maps and I'm doing like all the good end game stuff like Cortexes, Cirrus, Shaper Guardians, like all of that stuff I'm able to take on with my trapper, which was my league starter and also used mostly self-found gear for a very long time. Compared to the power level comparatively just feels really bad. really, really, really bad. And yeah, look at that lackluster single target. And part of that is because this is on a 4-link, but still, compared to like using a 4-link seismic trap, instantly killed Avarius. Like Avarius died. I threw 3 or 4 seismic traps onto the ground when I was first leveling and got to Avarius, and he just died. He didn't do anything. He just died. It's not really even close in terms of power. I'm hoping that the Raider's speed for mapping will make up for it. But yeah, I don't know if the single target's going to be great. This might be one of those builds where I'm kind of stuck using it to like do, tier 13 speed clear tier 13 maps or something because it's not good enough to kill the tier 16 bosses. So I want to be doing red maps, but I can't do all of the red maps. That's where it might end up being. I'm hoping not, but it is possible it turns out that way. So yeah, a little bit of bad news with today's update. I may continue this character, but I just wanted to let you guys know what I've been working on. Yeah, I'll probably get back to my physical trapper and do some more generic, non-build related content for a little bit. So if you're looking forward to that, go ahead and subscribe. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye!